must never take responsibility for another's mistake, and you must never sentimentally excuse it any more than you excuse your own mistakes. A false sense of love or loyalty on our part robs the other person of the learning process. Even if the other person refuses to learn the lesson, that is his responsibility. This may seem harsh, but it is an act of compassion. Even Christ refused to take responsibility for those who refused his message. Peace, family. Peace, 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 peace. Okay, so that passage, it was from this phenomenal book that I've been talking about for a while. It's called The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal day. If not, do understand and your day is going to get better once your perception gets better. So today's video or message is you are not responsible for somebody else's mistakes. Okay. It took me a while to get there because, especially with children, right? You don't want them to make certain mistakes because, is a lesson that comes with it. And, you learned your lesson from the mistakes that you have made. But for me, it was, I don't want my children to go through this, and basically saying that the universe don't know best, okay? What I had to start realizing and understanding was I am not responsible for that person's mistake. Whether it's children, friends, or whatever, okay? They are held accountable for whatever it is that they do, okay? Don't you beat yourself up and start feeling like, oh, well, if I would have did this, they wouldn't have did that. Honey, let me tell you something, okay? We all have choices. And oftentimes I say, like when you are aware of the things that you're doing, you can really choose, right? But the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, the ending of the day, we all have choices. And the choices that we tend to make, we will be held accountable for our actions, okay? It's the same as that concept of the farmer who plants nitrograde and the farmer who plants mango seeds, okay? One is a poison and one is a fruit, okay? Now, the land is not going to say to the farmer, okay, because you planted poison, okay, I'm going to forgive that, and I'm going to turn your poison into a healthy harvest. It's not going to say that. It's going to give him exactly what he has planted, okay? The same as that concept with people. You get what you plant, right? Like, for instance, last night, okay, my oldest daughter. Now, I've been telling my daughter not to bring, some of her friends, or actually the friends that she be with now, not to bring them to my house because I just feel like they fast and different, right? And I don't agree with the crowd that she hangs with, but that's her life. I have spoken to her several times about it, and she still want to be with them people, so I let her get the results from her being with them. Okay. So, the guy who owns this apartment called me and was like, oh, Dina, could you not have nobody, on the side of the house, like, inside the house, though? And I said, inside? Nobody was inside. And he was like, no, it was a guy. So I automatically knew that my daughter had brought this guy to the inside of the house, right? And I didn't even know. But I had told her time and time again, I don't want the people who she be with to know where I live at, okay? And what happened was, so I told her, I was like, you know what? I told you this before, and it's basically, you ain't paying me no mind, okay? So I created, the boundary, which I spoke about this before. So I said last night, I said, you know what? You are not to stay out, spend a night out, okay? Now, she's 16, about to be 17. And I just feel like she want to do what she want to do. And, I was a teenager once too, but, it was times I wanted to do what I wanted to do. But what I did, no one was being, accountable for my mistakes. I was held accountable. And oftentimes I would take ownership of the things that I did, okay? And it wasn't giving an excuse. So, next man I know, she got upset, my oldest daughter, and like slammed the door and stuff. And what I had said to her, I was like, I am not responsible for what you've done. I told you time and time again, do not bring nobody to my house, especially the people that you hanging around now, okay? And what I seen in that moment was me sort of trying to be her friend, right? Like almost like, although I yelled at first, like I was, talking to her, and then I was very, very calm. And then I was seeing that, Dina, why you keep explaining, right? And it comes from a place where it's though wanting to be liked, okay? Wanting to be liked and not wanting the other person to be upset with me, although they have done something and, is breaking a boundary that I created, but not wanting them still to be upset with me. And it's crazy. So, honey, I advise you highly to read this book, okay? It's so funny because when I was reading it, it was saying, about mistakes. It was talking about people getting their lessons, and understand that you're not responsible for someone else's mistake or whatever. People need to get whatever it is that they need to get because that's the only way they are going to learn, okay? And honey, sometimes they still don't get it, okay? But you are not responsible. So after somebody disregard your boundary that you have created, honey, don't you go against yourself, and don't you keep on explaining to them, like, so they can like you, or so they can mess with you, or, you have to be stern, okay? And that is something that I go through at times, being stern, speaking up for myself. Right now, it's times I could be a firecracker, but it's also times where it's though I don't speak up for myself because, growing up, if you may have had parents that have said, whenever I say something, don't you dare say anything back, right? And if you was to say something back, then it'd be like, like you getting smart with them or you being disrespectful. And so when people say stuff, oftentimes you don't say anything because you afraid of the argument, probably one, okay? You don't want to keep going back and forth. And that's another thing, right? Like, I don't like going back and forth. I just like leaving it the way it is. And that is unhealthy at times, okay? So what I started doing was I started saying stuff, right? Speaking up, like last night, my oldest daughter, she was upset. And I told her, I said, you know what? I am not responsible for what you did, okay? That was a choice that you have made after I repeatedly told you not to bring nobody to my house. That was something that you decided to do, right? If somebody breaks your boundary or they make a mistake, understand that by you taking accountability and saying, well, you know what, yeah, I did do it or whatever it is, they're never going to get the lessons from life. They always are going to blame things outside their existence for why they did whatever it is that they have done. Okay. And they just gonna keep on repeating the same exact thing over and over and over again. Okay? Like, I remember it was this guy that I had seen, it was like a article or something, and basically what he was saying was his mother was responsible for his mistakes because he kept going to jail and stuff, and he was like, she was responsible because, I guess in other words, like, she upheld whatever it is that he did, and that is really, really unhealthy. I also know a guy personally who mother has always upheld him, never basically let him take accountability for the actions that he had decided to take. And what that caused was him being in and out of prison. And he would never say, oh, it's because I decided to, sell drugs, or I decided to rob people. Like, he never would take accountability and responsibility. And so since he never did, it caused him to keep on getting the same exact results from life, which was incarceration. Okay. So with that being said, honey, I gotta run. I love you guys. Make sure you guys are rocking out, believing in yourself. Do understand, honey, we are in this together, learning, healing. Okay. And yesterday, today does not have to look like your yesterday. And with that being said,